Lipman McCauley, and if you don't already know this, she's the gal that slings paint and squirts paint with a syringe. Isn't it a dental?
Yes, I
Dental
bought them
tool?
from my dentist.
So if you haven't already seen her show, it's 3204. You're going to need to watch it because it is amazing. And we're so excited that you have your own exhibit here.
I know.
This is phenomenal.
It's exciting for me too, really.
So, as an artist, have your work out here.
Yes. Yes.
And what does it feel like seeing your work out in a group? Because you tend to work on one piece and you see it and you enjoy it and then you move on to the next piece. But seeing it all together, I think must also be really an emotional experience.
It is. It is to see all. There are 10 pieces that are in the show, and it's pretty exciting to be able to look back and see what I've been doing for the past 10 years. So,
and some things you think, oh, I kind of liked it at the time, but I'm not loving it as much as what I'm doing now. I would imagine over those 10 years.
And I've learned a lot over that time as to techniques that I like and the way things are put together.
Yeah. And so let's take, for example, for those who haven't seen your show, tell us about the technique.
So this is one of my favorite pieces. It's called Branches Orange. So I made a series of quilts of the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv. And so this is the second in the series. And what I do typically is I clothespin white fabric to my pot rack in the kitchen. And I use a syringe that I bought from my dentist. I fill it with black fabric paint and I let the paint drip, basically. And
in the kitchen?
In the kitchen, yes. In the kitchen, I do cover the island. And yes, I have gotten paint down into the cabinets and such, but it's all good. It's all good. And so I generally start with black and then add touches of color. So in this particular quilt, I added orange and a touch of embroidery, and then I do free motion quilting on my domestic machine.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of quilting. So it's not tons and tons of circles and other designs. It's very minimal because it's just little effects here and there. It's similar to the effect with the paint that you're
I guess you could say that.
Squirting.
Yeah.
And is it a very serendipitous type of a thing?
It is. It's funny you say that. That's my word, serendipity. Let it, if things don't go right, let it go. And if the whole cloth doesn't look right, you cut it up. Cut it up in pieces.
So if you don't like it, then what do you do with it? You cut it up and then reassemble it.
And then reassemble it in a piece quilt. Yeah.
Right. Oh, so you're not always using the syringe to apply paint. You also fling paint or dribble it.
Yes.
Let it drip.
Yes, I do. And depending on the consistency of the paint, the thinner the paint, the better the drips are. And I sometimes use a squirt bottle, and there's a...
So let's go look at one with the squirt bottle. So this is an example of one of yours that's not done with a syringe, but with a squeeze bottle.
Yes, so this one, again, was clothespin to my pot rack in the kitchen. And I use little tiny squirt bottle, Dynaflow, so it's a real inky, lightweight paint. And I use gestural motions, and you can kind of visualize how I go round in circles and lines, and the paint just drips. And I just love the way it looks because you can't predict how it's going to be, and you either love it or not. And if you don't love it, you cut it up and turn it into something else.
Is there ever any food prepared in your kitchen?
Yes, there is.
Okay. But it's got to be like, okay, you got to move the paint because we got to have a meal.
Yes, I kind of take over half of the island. And
the other hand is for prep. So now this is one that's sort of an example of what you were just saying, was that there's obviously a piece right along in here where you have pieced this. So you made a larger piece, but liked certain elements more?
Yes, exactly. Okay. And so, so you can see how the top was dripped with the syringe, and the bottom I added white to the syringe and got kind of the grays and the model kind of look. And then on the left, I used my squeeze bottles to get the different colors. And then on top of that is a sheer fabric cut in circles. Circles are my thing. And it's applied with Mist Diffuse, a lightweight, heat activated fusible. And the strip down the center is where I cleaned off my brushes and tools. So it at one time was a drop cloth.
Everything is available material to work with.
Yes, everything is reused, and sometimes when I do a large piece and it's not quite right and I want to zero in on it, I take two L-shaped pieces of cardboard.
Right.
So I cut a frame apart and
Right.
kind of
decide what areas
Yes.
really are the ones you like.
Yeah.
And then you also, which I think is interesting, this side, all the quilting is done in black. And
Yes.
then on this side is where you have the color, where you have.
Yeah, so this is one of my earlier pieces, and so I call it Aging On. And so the left side, I think of the fluid, youthful years of when my kids were in college, and so everything is kind of flowing and gentle curves. And the right side, my parents were aging, and it was kind of like end of the road,
It's
and
stressful.
so straight and yeah.
Well, it's a stunning piece.
So thanks.
really
It's one of my favorites,
Yeah.
but I say that about them all.
Right, because it's the one you just finished and it's your favorite. So let's go look at another one around the other side.
Okay.
Well, this is an unusual piece because it isn't as obvious of the squirting of the paint or the squeezing or the dripping, because it looks like this is elements from something that you made and then have cut up, which you mentioned already, that you,
Yeah.
if it's not working for you as a whole piece, I cut it up.
Yes, and so this is at one time was a whole cloth that didn't really work right. So
Right.
I cut it up. I did improv piecing, like with log cabin-ish kind of pieces,
Right.
and just kind of used strips along the way, and it grew. And you audition the blocks and you put them together, you move them, and I have to admit I got tired of piecing, so that's why there's solid colors in there. I'm like, and so it kind of pulled everything together.
And then you added pops of, even though it's called black and white and gray, you added pops of color.
Yeah, because
pulled that
the
from,
scraps had some color in them.
Yeah.
So I don't always do black on white.
Right.
But
primarily.
Primarily, yes. And then the quilted lines are gentle lines that are quilted with my walking foot on a domestic machine, and just kind of abstract as
Right.
we go along.
Right. Abstract also in the way that the paint has been dripping. It moves across the piece
Yes,
of fabric.
and it's a diptych, so there's another piece that meets up with it, and I'm not sure you can see this red line, but there's a red line of stitching that meets up with the other piece.
Oh,
just as kind of, if they're hanging together, you notice it, but it's like each time you see a piece, you notice something different
in it
as you look. So yeah.
Well, one of the things I did notice was that for you as an artist, it's always wonderful when there's a red dot on one of the names of the quilts, which means what?
It means that it was sold, and this is the very first time I've had a piece sell at the
And you
festival.
actually met the people.
I met the
you
people,
saw
the
them sort of
delightful
debating.
Yes, it was so exciting. I mean, it was so exciting.
Well, that is wonderful.
So thank you so much for noticing that.
Yeah, and thanks so much for sharing your exhibit, and congratulations on having the exhibit here.
Thank you. I love to talk about my work, and Lilo, it's always an honor to chat with you.
So check out 3204. It's a great show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.